This week we're looking at procedures. Before we move on with procedures, we'll look at our knowledge recall, and the 4 questions you need to answer this week are: what command is used for a condition controlled loop? Then what is a variable? Followed by what is a stage in Scratch? And what makes a strong password? So they are your 4 knowledge recall questions. You need to answer all of those in your e-portfolio. You can pause the video while you answer those. Moving on, you should have while as a controlled loop. A value that changes as the program runs was the answer for what is a variable. The stage in Scratch is the area where the code runs. And what makes a strong password is a combination of uppercase, lowercase, numbers and symbols in your password. So as I said, we're going to look today what a procedure is. Now a procedure is like a sub-program inside your program. So we'll look at how to create procedures. We'll look how to define those procedures in our Python coding as we go through today's lesson, and therefore we're creating a more complex patterns to our procedures and iterations when we are programming. So we will understand what procedure is and how to use them, and what is the Python for calling a procedure. So I'm going to tell you that now. That's def. That stands for defining. So when we're going to set a procedure, we define it, and then we want to run it, we write the name of that procedure followed by open brackets, close brackets. So we'll see that when we're programming later. So we are going to add to your e-portfolio as you progress through the lesson. You need to add in there now your definition and example of a procedure once we've done those, and why a procedure is used. So why we're using these sub-programs. I'm going to give you a little clue now. It's more efficient. It's going to save you time. So you're going to be starting off with a challenge to draw a house. And you're going to remember to use the fill to complete the colour and fill in the block work as you go. And I'm going to show you a little clue for that. So this is the sort of thing you're looking to produce. You're importing turtle, wn, so windows equals turtle.screen, open brackets, close brackets. We're calling our turtle Bob, so Bob equals turtle.turtle, open brackets, close brackets. Bob equals colour, and then we've got blue here. Bob.begin underscore fill, open brackets, close brackets. And then we've got some iteration. We did this last week for I in range 4, colon. So we're going to repeat this instruction that's indented 4 times. Bob.forward 80, Bob.right 90. So go forward 80 pixels, turn right 90 degrees. Go forward 80 pixels, turn right 90 degrees. So that's repeated 4 times. Then the turtle's going to go forward 80, Bob.left 120 degrees, Bob.forward 84, Bob left 120, Bob.forward 84, and then end the fill. So that should draw your house. Hopefully you've got something along those lines. So we can pause the video while you complete that. You can leave this on the screen so you can see what you're trying to create, and you can develop your house in your own way. So now we're going to move on with a challenge, and you're going to try and add in a window and a door. So you're going to fill the window in yellow and the door in red, or a colour of your choice, as long as it stands out from the background of the house. And ideally you're going to use a count controlled loop for each, using the pen up and pen down to place them. Now I'm going to show one aspect of what I've done, so I'd like you to have a go at this first, and then I'll bring in my code for how I've done some of this. So you can pause the video while you complete this. So this is the sort of thing that you might have produced with the import turtle. And if I just bring in my example here written in Python, we can see this as well. So it's the same sort of thing. Mine is slightly different to the one you see on the left. For a start, we have these hashtag comments in here. You see my hashtag comment of house here. Now this, when it goes red, when we use the hashtag and we write, this is a comment. It does not affect the code in any way. It's just a bit of information. It's like a title, so I know what this bit of code is for. So where I've got hashtag house here, This bit draws the house. Hashtag roof, this bit is drawing the roof. Then I'm moving the turtle, then I'm drawing the window, and I'm moving the turtle again, and then drawing the door. So we can see in my code that I've given comments to my code to make it easier to understand, easier to read, and to explain what's happening. So this is the code. I'm just going to run this now. And what we can see when we run it, it's just running. Here we go. It's drawing the roof, then drawing the window, then drawing the door. And that's the type of thing that you are looking to produce. So that was the first bit. I'm just going to move that out of the way. So hopefully you've drawn a house with a window and a door. You might not have put them in the right place first of all, and therefore it's a logic error. If it's gone slightly wrong, you've used the wrong logic, and you've had to debug and edit your code as you go along to make sure your door ends up where you want it to end up. So I'm just going to move on from here. We're now going to look at the next slide. And what we're now going to do is add in 3 more windows. And this is where we're going to start using procedures. So instead of drawing one window, then moving on and drawing another window, we can write the code for one window, which is here, define window. So defining a subprogram, open brackets, close brackets, colon. For I in range 4, turtle dot forward 15, turtle right 90 degrees. And this bit at the bottom tells it to run this subprogram. So run this procedure. So we develop the procedure first and then we tell it to run it. So I'm just going to bring in my bit of code. Here. And we define the subprograms first. So we've defined the window. Here I've got bob.color yellow, bob.begin fill, for I in range 4, bob forward. So that's me drawing my window. But if I just ran this bit of code, nothing would happen. I would have to tell it to run the window code. And right at the bottom of my program, here I've got window, open brackets, close brackets. That's where it's telling the program to draw window. So let's just go through my code here. I've imported turtle as normal with the window and calling my turtle Bob. That's the normal bit. Then I've got a comment here. So this is just explaining what this bit of code is doing. This is the window subprogram. So I've defined window, bob.color yellow, bob.begin fill, and we iterate through drawing the window. Nothing's happened when I run this yet. Now I draw the house, or define the program to draw the house. Again, it hasn't drawn it yet, but define the house, drawing the square for the house and colouring it in blue. And I've got the bit where I define the roof. So this bit, although it won't run until I tell it to draw the house, this is how it's all going to happen. Then I've got a door, and then I've got the end of my defining. So I'm here. So my indent goes back to the left now. So now I've told it to draw a house. Then I'm moving the turtle. Then I'm drawing a window. Then I'm moving the turtle again. And then I'm drawing a door. And then I'm moving the turtle again and drawing another window. So by using these subprograms, using these procedures, I do not have to write all the code out again to draw one window. It's just telling that here to actually run this bit of code for my window. So it's running this. Now the indents are really, really important here. So after I've defined the window, open brackets, close brackets, colon, and press enter, it indents. So my whole code is running here, apart from when I have for I in range, another colon, it indents again. So getting these indents right is really, really key. I'm just going to run this program and you'll be able to see what happens. So as it's loading up, what we now have is drawing the house, then drawing a window, and then it's told to draw another window. So you could very easily then go on to tell it to move again, move the turtle again, and then to draw another window. Very, very simple and easy. So that's the second challenge that you need to be working on today. Remember, hashtag and then a comment. It will not affect your code. It will just tell the reader of the code what's going on. It won't make any difference to the actual program. So that's what you've got so far. And you should end up be able to move them to draw the 4 windows. So you're writing the code for the window, writing the code for the house, writing the code for the door. Then you can tell it to run the house code, run the window code, and run the door code. You might have to move the turtle in between each time you run the code. So that's the sort of thing that you need to produce. And here's an example that you can see and go through. Again, I'll just bring my example in, where we've imported the turtle. Here we've defined the first bit, the window. The hashtag comment is written at the end of the line rather than on top. It makes no difference. Some people prefer to see it on the side here. Some people prefer to see it separating the code out, whichever suits you. Obviously, the way I've done it here on the right, it's using up more lines. So I have to scroll more to see the code rather than just write it on the edge. So that's the sort of thing you're looking to produce. I'm just going to scroll through that again so you can see my code. Define the window, define the house, define the door. So they're the procedures. And then here I'm telling it to run the house, to actually do that bit of code. House, open brackets, close brackets. Moving the turtle to a different location by lifting the pen up, moving it and putting the pen down. Then drawing the window. Again, moving the pen up, moving it, putting the pen back down. So telling it to draw the door. Then pen up and moving it again. So that's what you're looking to produce. Something along those lines, making your own house. The next step after that is a challenge where you can then draw a house, move the turtle and draw another house. Now what I've done on my next piece is I've actually created a sub-program called house. Define house. And this is going to get a little bit confusing because I've got 2 houses in here. So I could change the name of that, define house, and calling that overall house. I then define the window. So this is my code from before. It's all indented further. And what you can actually do is select a whole bit of code, just like this. Click Format and Indent Region. I'm going to dedent region. So that takes it back a stage. If you find that your formatting's wrong, format indent region. So I've just moved that whole block over. It's quite a useful little skill. And then you can move them all into the next sub-program, which is the house. And then my code is the bottom. So draw the house, bob forward, draw a house again. So when I run this bit of code, what's now happening, I can save it. Where are we? So it should start to run. Draws one house and my windows. Obviously you might have more windows in. Then it moves and draws the next house. And I've told it to draw 2 to repeat that. What you can then do is once you've completed that, your next challenge would be, I'll leave this on here a second, drawing the house, defining the door, defining the house complete, and completing all that. There's a little bit of code. Again, you can pause that and look at that if you need to see what code has been used. What you can have in here is an input to see how many houses need to be drawn. So here we have a number of house input, number of houses drawn equals 0. So this is account controlled. While houses drawn are less than number of houses complete. So you keep drawing until you've drawn enough houses. So that's the challenge that you've got in here. Code for houses, number of houses. So there's a further challenge you can have a go at. Okay, to sum up some of what we've done today, you need to complete this in your ePortfolio. And we've got the answers to the words just here. A procedure is a list of, you need to pick one of these words. The turtle performs the commands when you type in the procedures, and again choose a word. Making a new procedure is like, one of these. Making a new procedure is like something, the computer, a new word. So what are you doing when you're making a new procedure? So you can copy and complete that aspect of your work. Pause the video while you do that. And these are the answers that you should have. So a procedure is a list of commands. The turtle performs the commands when you type in the procedure's name. Making a new procedure is like teaching the computer a new word. So some questions just to finish off. Have a look at the code here. What does this do? How would it change for a three-sided shape? So first of all, what does this do? You should be able to answer that. And that is, it draws a square. To change it, it draws a square with sides of 50. To change it with the three-sided shape, for eye and range, you'll change your range to 3, and the angle you would change to 120 for an equilateral triangle. What do we mean by a constant in our code? So you can pause the video and answer that one. So a constant is a value that does not change during the running of a program. So it's a variable that always stays the same, it doesn't change. So we can define a constant and it will stay the same throughout the whole program, unlike a variable that can change. What do we mean by input? Again, you can pause the video while you answer this one. So input is information or data sent to the computer for processing by entering it on a keyboard. So you can input a variable value into the keyboard. What do we mean by logic error? Now, it's normal to get errors when we code. Nothing to worry about if you are getting errors throughout your code. You just need to go through and logically debug them. So a logic error is when the program works but you get a different result. So you might have moved, if you're drawing a turtle, your house might have ended up in the wrong place. That's a logic error. You've put the wrong information in. Although the coding is working, it's not doing what you intended it to do. What is a count controlled loop? Again, I'll give you a moment to answer that before we move on. A count controlled loop is repeating a set of instructions a number of times, however many times you tell it to repeat them. So that's what a count controlled loop is. So well done with working on your work so far this week. You've managed to draw using procedures, or otherwise known as subprograms, and using those subprograms to be more efficient in your coding. So you need to make sure you've got evidence in your e-portfolio and then save your work.